out to Socrates. Socrates still trying to get the opening. Oh, Socrates! Whoa!
And there it is. The crazy gang have beaten the Culture Club.
Maggie Thatcher, can you hear me? Maggie Thatcher, your boys took a hell of a beating. Your boys took a hell of a beating.
Welcome to 1979-80 Revisited, subsection module 1.08, paragraph 1. We're returning to the second division. We're getting plenty of second division footage, Dave, which is great. It just feels right. And this one as well, the big match of selected, the second week back on after that huge 11-week industrial action that kept them off air. It's the top two teams in the second division at this point in time. Luton and QPR at Kenilworth Road. These are the very much the pace setters in the second division. You've got Luton Town top of the table on 20 points, QPR second on 18, and then a cluster of followers, Leicester, Newcastle, both on 18, Wrexham on 17. It's Notts County, Preston North End, Swansea City, all nearby as well. The top 8 and 9 split by just 5 points, Dave. 2 points for a win era, granted, makes that a little bit different than it translates into a 3-point era. But that is still, we're not quite at the halfway mark of the season. And it's all to play for, Dave. But here we are at Kenilworth Road for two teams who are the top two, yet without being Nostradamus, neither would actually go up.
It reminded me that back in those days, in the days of the big match and match of the day, not like now, you didn't have to decide who you were going to put on television 6, 7, 8 weeks in advance. You could wait until pretty much the week before, I think, and decide, okay, first against second in the second division, that looks like a good game. We'll go and set the cameras there. That'll be worth watching. So, I mean, you were always kind of getting a lot of big games all the way through the season there. You know, they've got a lot of intrigue and whatnot around them. Obviously, there was, you know, the rules that they had to show so many from the second division, so many from the third division and that kind of stuff. But you were always getting games that had got plenty on them. And this one, a derby-ish kind of game, I suppose. I don't know if Luton quite qualify for London derby, but I mean, it's a really good game, as we shall discover. I mean, two teams going really well. There's plenty of entertainment, plenty of incident in this one.
There is, and also in the what looks like the manager's office after the match, Dave. Eric Morecambe has undergone heart surgery and has been off grid for a year. But here he is back at Kenilworth Road for his first game, and he's in peak Eric Morecambe mode.
He sits down with Brian Moore after the game to discuss what's going on. Particularly delighted to hear that Watford have lost, and Elton has suffered on this particular Saturday. Yeah, it's a nice bit of footage. We'll put the link so you can go and find it. But he's in good nick after a year out.
He is in fine form. But yes, back to the football first then. The two lineups. Some familiar names in this, some not so familiar as well, as far as the Luton side's concerned. Plenty of familiarity about the QPR side, given that we've already watched them this season. But the names are just kind of like pretty epic. There's Luton sound, Jake Finlay in goal, who skips my memory banks there. But Kirk Stevens, who's also a Canadian snooker player of high repute. Mal Donaghy, Tony Grealish, Mike Saxby, Paul Price, Ricky Hill, Alan West, Brian Steen, Bob Hatton, David Moss, and on the bench it's Mark Hazelwood, David Pleat, the manager for QPR. You know, a strong lineup. Chris Woods, Don Shanks, Ian Gillard, David McCreary, Bob Hazel, Steve Wicks, Stan Bowles, Glenn Roeder, Clive Allen, Tony Curry, Paul Goddard with Steve Burke on the bench, and Tommy Doherty still leading matters. Things are going quite swimmingly for QPR and Doherty at the moment. They're surely nailed on to return, and Luton are playing some pretty good football there.
Well, the QPR team, as you read it out, I mean, that sounds like a first division team at the time, doesn't it? I mean, there's a real strength in that side. Luton, there's some great names in there, players, you know, from that era. Who were always great to watch. Ricky Hill was a fantastic player. David Moss, always remember him as well, and Brian Steen. And Bob Hatton was an old favourite of mine. I mean, he played in the glorious Birmingham team that played in the Penguin kit. So he was up front with Bob Latchford and Trevor Francis and Gordon Taylor on the wing back in the early mid-70s, which was always on Star Soccer. So Bob Hatton was always one I always used to look out for. Two really good teams, and both teams that are all about attacking football. So it's everything's set up on this one for a great game.
I've got the chimes, Dave.
The Romark chimes.
I've got the Romark chimes. I've got the Romark chimes kicking in. This is a recurring feature now. I'm impressed with this. Feel free to keep them in. Romark has spoken. Yeah, but yeah, and absolutely. What we've got as well. One more. Yeah. We've got the very busy Ron Greenwood in the stand watching this one as well. You know, interesting to see that the England manager is more than happy to peruse the second division, what second division has to offer for his England squads. In a week in which he's agreed a 2-year contract extension with the FA to take England onwards beyond the summer of 1980 and projectedly to Spain for the World Cup.
Much to the disgust of many of us who were waiting for Brian Clough to take him. I can't believe they're giving him a new contract after that £150 taxi bill.
Exactly. I was just going to throw that one in as well. That should have been a deal breaker, really, shouldn't
Absolutely.
It really should have been. Yeah, the two fantastic sides. Luton absolutely dominate the first half of this game. You know, the football is pretty magnificent. As you said, Bob Hatton, you know, is excellent on the wing. You've got Ricky Hill in there. Brian Steen is doing, you know, Brian Steen things. You know, he's busy, he's industrious, he's skillful, he's got that determination for goal. You know, this is a fantastically attacking side. When you've got, you know, defenders like Kirk Stevens, Mal Donaghy, you know, as fullbacks as well, who like to get forward. We could throw this as being El Plastic Pichico, but it's also on grass, Dave. We're still a few years away from plastic. You know, they've not got their flexible friends, yet they are still playing some. They're playing some pretty emphatically good football here, Luton. It's
very David Pleat, isn't it? The way that Luton are playing. I mean, it is a very, very much the way that he'll go on to play with Tottenham, and that was it 87, that season where they scored all those goals and came close to winning everything and ended up with nothing. But it is archetypal David Pleat, attacking fullbacks. I mean, Kirk Stevens has a fantastic game. He's all over the shop. He's defending well. He's creating chances. He hits the post. He does absolutely everything. And then you've got Ricky Hill, who's got that bit of magic about him to open things up. Moss was he top scorer in the division at that time, or he'd certainly got about a dozen goals anyway. So he was right in there. And then yet in the midst of it all, we've still got the glory days of an agricultural clearance going over the stand and out of the ground, which was always a feature of 1970s football.
Especially at Kenilworth Road, that has changed very, very little, satisfyingly, over the last 4.5 decades. Yeah, the QPR are on the back. They're very much on the back foot. There's a very early moment in which Chris Woods absolutely totals Ricky Hill. He comes to try and punch the ball and punches Ricky Hill instead. Where our referee,
yes,
Mr. Brian Martin of Keyworth, does not. He's not taken for giving a penalty for this.
And nobody's claiming for one either, which is the most amazing thing. I mean,
because when you come to watch the replay, you think
that's a forearm smash. That's a penalty.
That's in any era of currency in the colour television era. Anyway, that's a penalty.
Absolutely, it's a penalty, and nobody seems to notice. Bobby Saxby's head just bobbles away, and that's it. We'll carry on. I mean, it's as clear a penalty as you could hope to see, and nobody's moved at all.
No, nobody's moved. No, I mean, I think possibly the fact that there's still a goal threat there to which kind of distracts everyone. Brian Steen can't quite turn the ball in. You know, it's a loose ball, and the ref's just kind of like, I've seen nothing here, play on.
VAR is looking into that one. It's the most obvious penalty I think we've had so far in the series.
Truly amazing. I think there was one last week, wasn't there, where it was kind of like, was it at South? I can't remember now. There's so many games which looked a nailed on one as well.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, this one was particularly impressive that Chris Woods gets away with this one. Chris Woods has an interesting afternoon. He makes a string of fine saves, yet there's also a smattering of poor judgment occasionally. A fine goalkeeper, still being classed as the young Chris Woods at this point. He's probably by now in his mid to late 20s, possibly even
24 by then, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a stretch for Ryan Moore to call him the young Chris Woods now, but interesting. Chris Woods at QPR. I've got to throw that one into the mix. It tends to be forgotten that between Forest being Peter Shilton's understudy and being this perennial figure at Norwich and later at Rangers, Sheffield Wednesday, that spell at QPR always jars with me a little bit. Is that they've kind of like signed him. He's a fine sign, and it's not even like QPR in succession of Woods when they do sell him to Norwich City. It's not like they bring in kind of like a truly outstanding replacement where you say, well, yeah, I get why you've kind of like, taken this course of action.
No, I mean, when we first saw QPR in a couple of episodes back, 3 or 4 episodes back, and Chris Woods was in goal, it was one of those, oh yeah, he went and played. That had gone completely from my memory that he'd been at QPR. And I mean, when he, sorry to bring this up, that League Cup final against Liverpool, when he sort of came to fame, he was going to go on and be the next big thing, wasn't he, Chris Woods? And then obviously, being understudy to Shilton wasn't much of a career move. And then he kind of just fizzled out a little bit, didn't he, for 5 or 6 years, and then obviously at Norwich and then Rangers it reignited again. But this is not one of the ones. One of the afternoons he would necessarily be putting on his show reel, because, as you say, a couple of good saves, but a couple of times where he's absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, his timing is a bit off at times. Yeah, another penalty shout. Dave McCreary handles the ball. This is Luton could have been kind of like over the hills and far away. Very similar to what was it? What was the game we were speaking of not so long ago? Southampton again, wasn't it? Yeah, it is a game where I think Crystal Palace were a little bit like that in one of their games as well that we've gone through. Yeah, there's that surprising lack of intent in front of goal to be able to take the chances that are created, given the talent they got at their disposal for Luton.
Yeah, I mean, they've scored loads of goals all through the season, and they are. Brian Moore says at one point in the commentary it was a fairly dull first half an hour, in which case all of these highlights must have been drawn from the last 15 minutes of the first half, because it's an onslaught from Luton. They're just opening QPR up at will. Brian Steen's all over the place, collecting ball, running the channels, all that sort of stuff. Hatton's involved with everything. Rick Eels, threading balls through to one. It's an absolute onslaught from Luton. There's a good save from Chris Woods at a near post corner from Brian Steen. That's a good stop. But it's one of those where they can't hold back the tide forever. And I think Brian Moore is incandescent with rage at the idea that there's 6.5 minutes of injury time. God knows what he'd do now, but there's 6.5 minutes of injury time in this first half, and that's just long enough for Luton finally to take the lead.
Yeah, absolutely is. 6.5 minutes of injury time. He would definitely go ape at the contemporary terms of this. I think if the first half hour was as bad as he was telling us it was, maybe that's where his anger comes from. I've got to sit through another 6.5 minutes of this. Kirk Stevens does hit the both part of this. The 1978-79 Luton Player of the Year, as Brian Moore tells us on a couple of occasions, as if he's kind of running out of facts to tell us to fill in the swathes of poor football that has thankfully made it onto the cutting room floor. Yeah, Wood saves from Moss, he saves from Steen. There's a header from the corner. Yeah, and then we're kind of like into that 6.5 minutes of injury time when Luton make the breakthrough. Saxby, Woods misses the ball from a free kick. It's headed, and it's 1-0, Dave.
Yeah, after all the good football we've seen from Luton in the highlights that we've been allowed, this is fairly agricultural, really. I mean, it's on the halfway line. Paul Price, who's just been added to the Welsh squad for the first time, lumps the ball forward into the box. Chris Woods decides that he's going to come about 15 yards off his line and fail to get to the ball, and Bobby Saxby just beats him to it and nudges a header in for 1-0. And there's still time in these acres of of added minutes to the first half for Tony Grealish to miss an absolute sitter. Although he's then pardoned when a foul is given, but Bob Hatton bullies Bob Hazel off the ball, which
He does. That takes some doing.
That's a fair achievement against Bob Hazel, because Bob Hazel was some unit, but he gets the ball and squares it for Grealish, who from about 4 yards out contrives to miss, and he's then relieved to hear the referee's whistle going for a foul. But they're going at 1-0, and you've got to think that Luton are thinking we should be 3 or 4 clear by now.
Absolutely, they should be. Absolutely. There is that. Grealish puts one over the crossbar. Hatton, with the cross, plays pulled back. There are golden opportunities for Luton to extend the lead. Luton fans kick it in during the 6.5 minutes in the first half with a chorus of "You Never Walk Alone, Dave." I will continue to out these instances. Mark my words.
Is this the game where somebody also burst into a bit of the Bladen races at one point?
It does sound that. I was trying to make out what the version was, or were they just singing the Bladen races?
Why would you be singing that if you were Luton or QPR fan?
Exactly. That one doesn't make sense. That makes even less sense, kind of like than Tottenham fans in September singing tunes to Christmas carols and busy telling everyone that they're going to get to Wembley. The season's only just started, lads. Come on. And have a long hard look at yourself in the mirror. Into the second half, it's a bit more of an even game, Dave. Clearly, Tommy Docherty lashes into his players in the dressing room at half time, but immediately there is kind of like a mix up between Chris Woods and Steve Wicks, and Moss almost takes advantage. Now this is where Chris Woods is kind of like, he's pulling off some fine saves, but this in particular was a potential shocker of an incident.
They would call it a miscommunication there. But Steve Wicks plays it back, and Chris Woods decides not to bother coming for the ball, allows Moss to intercept it, then allows Moss to get a shot in. And it's left to poor old Steve Wicks to run past his own back pass, get onto the line and hack the ball away to safety. If Ron Greenwood's there to watch Chris Woods, it's not been an afternoon that's done him any favours, shall we say.
It's not. Chris Woods will have to wait another half decade for that kind of call up. QPR do start to kind of like wake up a little bit. Dave McCreary has a chance at the near post that's blocked. It goes all a bit end to end. There's a save, another save from Woods from Hatton. He does clock up the saves in this, but it's just a bit of a kind of like a polarising performance. It's either one extreme or the other, doesn't it? And within this one, Hatton's trying to busy claim a goal when it's clearly not gone over the line at all. Fair play, Bob Hatton, for throwing his hand up and giving him giving the linesman and the referee something to think about.
You don't score 150 goals over your career without trying it on every now and again.
And that was very much tried on. Again, Luton are playing fine football. Moss comes close again. QPR have a harshly disallowed goal, as well as part of this. So Luton continue to play, but that 1-0 lead is very fragile, and the potential for mishap is rising, Dave.
It is. I mean, they're missing another couple of good chances as well. Bob Hatton heads one over, Ricky Hill heads one over, and Rangers are just starting to creep back into the game now. Inevitably, when you've got Clive Allen, even the teenage Clive Allen, as we must call him at this point, in your side, there's every chance that you're going to find one opportunity, and of course he does. A neat bit of control to go around Bobby Saxby, and then slams the shot across the goal and into the far corner for one apiece. Luton are desolate, I think, at this point. I mean, the game's been there for the winning, and one apiece. QPR have rescued it at the end, and that's Clive Allen. He made an entire career out of doing that. David Pleat afterwards in his office interviewed by Brian Moore. Not that we get to see this. This is just an aside from Moore afterwards. He said, and David Pleat also told me that he was impressed by Clive Allen's finishing. I bet he was. But how much money did he spend on him at Tottenham to get him?
Absolutely, he's definitely added that name to a shopping list for future reference, hasn't he? Without a shadow of a doubt. Allen gets the equaliser. Although QPR are snapping to, it appears to be against the run of play still. Luton are done by, but it's a fine finish.
It is.
It's very much a Clive Allen goal, and QPR kind of finished the game in ascendancy. typical. We've seen these type of games a million times. When one team's on top, they can't extend the narrow lead. They ship the equaliser, and then suddenly it's panic at the back. While the team that's kind of like thinking we've been completely out of here, hang on lads, we're in this, and off and away they go. There's Tony Curry's trying to get himself into the game. Stan Bowles is involved, but he's kind of on the periphery from what we see of the footage. Tommy Docherty's not particularly happy with one weighty challenge, shall we call it, on Tony Curry. We're looking for a thuggery corner, which is where you want compost corner on Tiswas. Maybe we should have Kenny Burns corner on 1979-80 Revisited. In this week's Kenny Burns corner. It's a very strong challenge on Tony Curry that irates Tommy Docherty on the touchline.
Yes, and Brian Moore tells the linesman telling Tommy Docherty to sit down and go back to his dugout. The dock is on the pitch there virtually. It's a bit of chaos.
It's not quite Malcolm Allison last week where he's kind of like sent Paul Power over to get himself booked and tee up a fine from the manager himself. It's all a bit. It's all it's not quite that, but it's a pretty good effort at it. Yeah, QPR end the game looking the more likely, but it pans out. It staggers towards its 1-1 draw. You do get that typical 2 points for an era. Actually, 85 minutes. Let's just share the points. Say.
Yeah, I think so. Although Clive Allen does have one chance,
right, he does,
which he lashes over from the edge of the box. They
all
tend to agree afterwards. It was the right result, which on the basis of the highlights.
Doesn't tally up from a Luton perspective.
Definitely not.
Yeah, QPR and Tommy Docherty have to be the more pleased with the point than Luton do in this.
I would think so. I mean, just in terms of goal-mouth incidents and stuff, it's Luton's game by an absolute mile.
It really, really is. Other results across Division 2 from this particular Saturday. Birmingham City are 1-0 winners at home to Cambridge United. West Ham win 2-1 at Fulham. You've got Leicester City 1, Burnley 1. Luton QPR 1-1 as we've watched. Newcastle United are 1-0 winners at home to Cardiff City. Notts County 2-1 winners at home to Preston North End. Here's the remarkable result of the afternoon from Division 2. Orient 3. And what the Daily Mirror and the sports pages should have done is put the number in brackets. Chelsea 7. Orient 3, Chelsea 7. Chelsea were 3 up at half-time. And there's a further 7 goals in the second half. A hat-trick for Frost, 2 for Clive Walker as part of this. Watford, the defeat that pleases Eric Morecambe so much is sustained at Gay Meadow against Shrewsbury Town. It was a penalty that settled that one. John Toshak's Swansea City, 3-1 winners at home to Sunderland, and Wrexham go down 2-1 at home to Bristol Rovers. Not a particularly great day for the teams chasing promotion in many respects, Dave.
The Wrexham bubble has burst there against Bristol Rovers of all clubs who, as we've already flagged up, are having plenty of problems at their end. With Luton and QPR only drawing, there was opportunity as well for teams to catch them up. Opportunity squandered there. Although Blues, Birmingham City are going pretty well. Another win for them, and that was a good side that they were putting together again at that point. They would go in. I think it was 2 or 3 seasons they had in a row in the first division after that, before the sky fell in the mid-80s. It
did indeed. Luton remain top of the table with their point. Newcastle are up to second on 20 points, just 1 point shy of Luton. We've got Birmingham, as mentioned. They've moved up into the promotion places, into third, also on 20. QPR down to fourth on the back of this result. Leicester on 19 along with QPR. It's Notts County now on 18, and Swansea are on 18 as well. So just 3 points now separating that top 7, with Chelsea and Wrexham, Preston, West Ham, all no lower than 16 points, taking us down into the just about into the bottom half of the table there, Dave. It's a demolition derby shaping up here as we approach the near. Well, not quite the near halfway mark yet. I think we class ourselves as a third of the way through the campaign, I think, with this.
And of course, these are the days before the playoffs. So it's the top 3, and that's it. So you get nothing for 6th place.
You don't.
I'd say. It is all all or nothing kind of thing. So there's going to be all kinds of casualties over the course of this season.
Yes, it's all to play for. Maybe not so for Burnley, who are still bottom of the table, 15 games in without a win. They did pick up that point at Filbert Street, though. Looking at form guides as well as part of this, Newcastle's home form's impressive. 1-7 and drawn one of their 8 on home soil, but they've only won once on their travels. Luton are the best travellers thus far. 4 wins on their travels, but maybe too many draws. Unbeaten at home, but of their 8 at home, they've drawn 4 of them. Who are you fancying for promotion in this, Dave?
Well, having seen Luton and QPR, I mean, it's going to be some good sides that beat them to the punch, isn't it? Then you've got West Ham just starting to gather themselves now, putting a bit of a run together. Newcastle winning at home every week. I mean, my God, it's Birmingham City as well. It's a tough one to call that.
There's a compelling argument for a variety of teams there, Dave. A quick look at how the League Cup's going before we move on from this one, just to see how teams from outside the First Division are doing. We've got some December fixtures coming up. Quarterfinals in December are ahead, but there's been some League Cup 4th round replays in the midweek leading up to this.
Those were the days.
Those were the days. West Ham beat Sunderland 2-1 at Upton Park, or I think we were calling it the Bowling Ground at the time. You've got Norwich City overcoming West Brom, Dave, 3-0 at Carrow Road, unfortunately, and Wolverhampton Wanderers. Oh, that's a terrible. The day before, Wolverhampton Wanderers have gone through 1-0 against QPR, Dave. West Brom out. You can concentrate on the league until the FA Cup kicks in January now.
League Cup games at Norwich City were never good. Years and years later, I had the misfortune of seeing us lose a League Cup game there when Tony Pulis decided to play Victor Anichebe as a defensive midfielder. Having said that, I'd seen him do that before. I mean, it was like putting a speed bump in the middle of the pitch. That was pretty much it. They just went round him all the while. It was that was not a great evening either. So this was just a foreshadowing.
A bold statement indeed. Further replays will be in the following midweek. Arsenal at home to Brighton, and Nottingham Forest face the visit of Bristol City. There's still interest from teams outside the First Division. Swindon Town, the surprise 1969 League Cup winners, are awaiting the winner of the Arsenal-Brighton replay. We've got Grimsby Town. They're going to be at home at Blundell Park to Wolverhampton Wanderers. West Ham have still got an interest. They're waiting to see who comes through that Nottingham Forest Bristol City replay. Are we hopeful that a team from outside the top division can make the way through to Wembley here, Dave?
It would be great to see, but I suspect that Nottingham Forest have got a timeshare on the League Cup pretty much at this point.
Yeah.
So,
the reign of League Cup terror must come to an end though this season, surely.
It's possible.
Yeah.
If only it was the right club that could do it.
Yes, absolutely. And if a team from outside the First Division can't do it in the League Cup, maybe there's still the FA Cup to come, Dave.
There's always the FA Cup to come.
There's always the FA Cup. Quick look through the back page headlines because paragraph 2 will be top heavy in First Division action. We've got, along with the League Cup action, we've had European action as well. There's been Europe. Out of the UEFA Cup have crashed Leeds United and Ipswich Town. Ipswich very carelessly against Grasshoppers on away goals rule at Portman Road. Leeds undone by Romanian unknowns. That's a bitter disappointment for a troubled Leeds. Jimmy Adamson's under intense pressure, and that'll do him no favours whatsoever. Nottingham Forest have made it through to the quarterfinals of the European Cup. Out of the Cup Winners' Cup from north of the border. Out have gone Rangers from the Cup Winners' Cup, but Celtic have progressed themselves as well into the quarterfinals of the European Cup. We're getting a bit sparse on the ground. Kevin Keegan, however, has avenged Liverpool's exit to Dino Tbilisi by Hamburg going through to the quarterfinals ahead of the Georgians, Dave. I'm not sure if I'm pleased about that or not, with my Dino Tbilisi Georgian bobble-at on. An interesting week for Kevin Keegan. He's peculiarly linked with a move to Chelsea, who are struggling in immense debt. They've transfer listed virtually all of the first team squad, yet somehow this story has bubbled to the surface that Chelsea for Keegan.
Yes, Kevin Keegan, famously the best paid English footballer of his time, a man who understood his worth to the nth degree, and fair play to him for that. But which bit of Stamford Bridge are they going to sell to pay for Kevin Keegan?
To pay for this. This is where maybe Newcastle Hour would get a future blueprint and start tapping up local breweries to see if they'll help foot the bill. They could have gone around the King's Road and see if they rattled a few jars or something like that to see if they could have got something up. John Barnwell's
London breweries, you see, that's a problem.
No, that's it. Oh, the Southern Beer's just not up to it. So John Barnwell's won his fight for control of team affairs at Wolves. The board of directors have accepted his blueprint for internal structure at the club. All sounds very grand, Dave.
What? Very ahead of its time. I'm sure that'll see Wolves go on to eclipse Crystal Palace as the team of the 80s.
Yes, I imagine so.
They'll be nowhere near the 4th division at any point.
No, we will watch with interest as they go on from strength to strength. Andy Ritchie, the Manchester United goal-scoring teenager, their version of David Fairclough in many respects, never quite got over the concept that he was the 13th man for Manchester United at the 1979 FA Cup final. Seems amenable to depart at Old Trafford. Aston Villa have put in a bid of £385,000 for his services. He's been to Villa Park to see Ron Saunders, and he's hightailed it back north to think about it.
Yes, I think that would be your general response to meeting Ron Saunders, I would have thought.
He's been uncommittal, but he's needed some time to think over the deal, which seems to be a recurring theme for a lot of some of these Aston Villa related transfers after Ron Saunders has had a word in the ear of the player in question.
One side of the cadaverous Ron Saunders, and you think, no, there's got to be somewhere else.
Not for me. There must be someone else. Ipswich Town are reputedly interested as well. We will watch on. They've been wonderful. Always a joy to dip into the second division for these paragraphs and subsections, Dave. Looking forward to some Division 1 action as well, though, coming up in paragraph 2. All that leaves me to do is enjoy the chime that brings the paragraph to an end. Love that clock, I really do. It's an heirloom of some description, Dave. It's an heirloom. It's one of Mrs. Scragg's aunties or a grandma's clock or something. You should see it. I stretch out on that sofa sometimes and have a nap, and then when it wakes me up, just into that blissful zone, and then kind of here comes Romark's clock.
The time. That's it now. It is now officially Romark's clock.
It's part. Yeah,
the value.
It's an integral part of the podcast as well. Please do join us for paragraph 2 as we take a look into this weekend's First Division. Thank you and goodbye.